Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters. It is Friday night, which means it's FAB 4 night, and as always I'm joined by Mitch, Steve Hasty and Keith Patterson, although that wasn't the order before it went on screen.
Can I blow the gap?
Go on.
I was next to Steve at the top, but then they thought it was going to be a rant night where people rant. I says, can I not rant? Can I just have a quiet night and enjoy myself? So I got demoted down the bottom corner because Steve Hasty's normally the rant man, and he's been demoted number 3. But Mitch is fired up tonight. So Neil Mitchell tonight is going to give it the big one.
You can tell.
Uptown top ranting.
That's it, exactly. You can tell I'm from the generation of celebrity squares. Like, I always wanted that power and just to be able to move people around. So now I've got it. It's in my hands. Happy days. But welcome everybody to the show. It is live. I'm not off on my holidays quite yet, and I'm not down at Abbey Road. Although I did have an absolutely brilliant time, and I would have submitted the photo actually to lookalikes, but we didn't quite nail it. But there you go. There's me, my dad, my dad's mates. Basically on the steps of Abbey Road, recreating that infamous Beatles pose. So fantastic day. Only 2,100 people got the chance to walk around all of the Abbey Road studios last weekend and last week. So amazing, really. 300 a day that went through, and it was great. Bit of history. It's the first time all 3 studios have been opened. So thoroughly enjoyable time. And thank you, lads, for recording the show so that I could go and do that. It was great. And an absolute.
When's the album out, Steve?
Well, Christmas. We get your Christmas jumpers out. It's going to be a Val Doonican special, I think. But no, it was great time, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, that. But as always, tonight we'll have all our usual suspects. We'll have Joe joining us, Tune Tipster later on at 7 o'clock. We have Lookalikes. We have our Tweets of the Week, and we also have Troll of the Week. So plenty to look forward to, as always. And as always, it's unplanned. So I thought I'd hit you with this one first, lads. And I'm not sure if any of you listened to the Steve Bruce interview on Radio Newcastle. It was an hour long. It was last night. It was a chance for fans to get on and ask Steve Bruce, our esteemed manager, questions. If you didn't, I took the time today to sit and listen to the hour because I wanted to refresh my mind and just jot down the questions which he was asked. And as you would imagine, some hard-hitting ones in there, like, are you a fan of reality TV? Do you watch Love Island? These are real questions, by the way. Why do you play players out of position? We got a little bit harder with that one. Why do you often big up the opposition? We've seen that one doing the rounds on Twitter today. The guy is obviously delighted that he got a chance to ask that. Why do you play 5 at the back and not revert to other formations? What is happening with Sean Longstaff? He cited injury. If you're interested in the answer, he just says he doesn't really think he's come back from the injury. Do you think Joe Linton will make it? That was from Albert, who's a renowned face on Radio Newcastle's Talking. He said all he could say was he hoped so. An opinion on Murphy and Ritchie not being great defenders was passed. It wasn't really a question by the guy. He actually agreed that they're not very good defensively, which I thought was a bit bizarre. What does a normal day look like in Steve Bruce's life? Well, of course, that just involved walking his dog, bumming into Steve Hasty and speaking to the medical staff before going out onto the training pitch. It was a simple answer as that. Would he consider squad rotation? Again, similar question of, why doesn't change his formation? Batted that one off quite easily. And what do you think fans expect, and are you delivering that? Which I thought was a pretty decent question. He just said fans expect attacking football. He referred to himself as a fan throughout the interview. Didn't say Newcastle fan, and I know that's been maybe he's a bit picky on my behalf. He didn't say I'm a Newcastle fan. He just says I'm a fan. It leaves it still wide open to me whether he is a Newcastle fan. I know I've come out on record on here a few times and said I felt he was a Man U fan. But look, it was an hour. It was another part of a charm offensive, which is what I've said on the show. I'm not criticising at all doing this. I think it's the right thing to do, especially after the criticism he's had. He did talk social media. He talked about Alex Bruce's spats and said the stuff that Alex had read out of him deserved the response that Alex gave. He also talked about Graham Jones, probably the last big thing I can mention. Talked about the Graham Jones situation and reiterated it at the end with a little bit of a dig at the press. I guess it was aimed at Craig Hope in particular, but said, "Do you really think I would allow anybody to come in and manage the team above me? This was my decision, etc." So, he cleared the air on that not once but twice. And said Graham was the right choice and that he was delighted that he got him. So, all in all, if I was going to give it marks out of 10, I'd probably say 6. You're going to get a couple of points for going and doing it. But I just thought the questions, as usual, weren't great. At the end, Steve Howie and Simon Pride were both saying, well, if you wanted to ask harder questions, you should have phoned in. The fact that Albert got on, and this is no offence to Albert, by the way, and I'm, a big admirer of the guy. He's long-serving supporter, and I've listened to him, and I quite enjoy his questions. He doesn't take any crap, and he gets on with it. But if Albert's getting through, when the phone lines were as busy as they said they were, then it does stink a little bit of being stage managed. So fair play for getting him on, fair play for him for going on. But look, Mitch, my view is on this. The whole Steve Bruce charm offensive is in full effect, and I just think it means for me, and this just, I almost cements my feelings at the moment. I just feel that we are stuck with this manager for the foreseeable.
And he knows fans are now back on the ground. The thing he didn't make up to towards the end of last season, and he only seemed to wake up to that about 3 days before fans were in the ground. There's absolutely, I can't see. Just because of the very nature of the BBC, them asking any of the tough questions, even if they were come in. So, of course, it's stage managed to a degree. And there's people involved with the fans' panels. I mean, Steve did that for years. That and who are seen as sort of voices and people they perceive people like to hear from, like Albert. Again, no offence at all. So there is a degree of stage management in there, of course there is. And the stage management is about calming down reaction to Bruce inside that ground when we're at home, because he's the front line who's going to get it. And after the second half display against West Ham, rightly so. It comes back to what the hell did he say to them at half time again? How can we be so abjectly different in the second half to the first half? But that whole thing, I've picked up bits and listened to bits. I've not listened to the whole thing through. I've been in and out of Twitter a little bit. I've been busy with a hell of a lot of other things this week, particularly trying to sort this golden visa thing out that I've been offered, which is quite nice. But that's another matter. You're right. There's a charm offensive going on. And the only reason that charm offensive can be going on is because, as far as people inside Newcastle United are concerned, this is the manager for the foreseeable.
Yeah. Okay, Steve. Here, Steve. I mean, you've met Steve Bruce, as we've mentioned on the show last week at the food bank briefly. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty much par for the course, typical Radio Newcastle fare. I didn't bother listening to the Joe Willock one. I knew it would be full of superlatives and things about, pleased to be here, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't give that one much thought, but I did, as I say, listen to that one for the hour. What did you think of Bruce's phone in?
I mean, it is a charm offensive. It's damage limitation before the damage has even started this season. It's taken 2 years. He was on Talk Sport, national radio himself. Without the support of the football club, only a matter of a few months ago. I'm surprised he hasn't been on Radio Newcastle before now, to be perfectly honest, and I think that says an awful lot about the way the club had been operating and does operate, that they didn't think it was necessary for their media partner, for want of a better word, who have the exclusive rights to be able to have the commentary on radio, for not actually having them in the studio and doing as near as you can radio face to face with fans, asking them questions. So 2 years in, that's an awful long time, and we can use COVID as an excuse. But I wished it would have happened an awful lot earlier, simply for his state of mind as the manager of our football club. That's not to say that I'm on the defensive of it. Quite the opposite. I'm critical because it hasn't happened so far, and it's taken 2 years. In terms of the way that he handled himself, do any of us expect anything else? Do we expect hard-hitting questions to get through to the radio station? Do we expect people to come on and do a rant on them and rant and rave? Because, you know, what I tend to find is that when people meet one-to-one, people tend to be polite to each other. It's just human nature. It's very rare that you would bump into someone and go into an immediate rant, although it has happened to me in the past, and I'm sure it's happened to you three guys as well in various scenarios over the years. But it's very rare that sort of confrontational aspect goes. I know that there's lots of people who haven't spoken to him would say, well, if it was me, I'd have asked him this, and I'd have told him this. And what you tend to find, and if what happened outside on St James's Park before the Norwich game is anything to go by, we had a lot of fathers coming over and thanking them for allowing their kids to have their photograph taken with them. There was a lot of light-hearted humour, and it was very much, great to see you. Thanks very much. Because there's that sort of air of excitement that builds up, and people want to go back and say, I'll bump into him, and that's it. So for me, it's a charm offensive. It'll have worked for some people. It'll not work for others. But in terms of the club, it's another box ticked at the start of the season. We're one game in, and he's already been on a local radio station, Steve.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, Keith, anything to add to what the guys have already said about Steve Bruce on Radio Newcastle last night?
I read all the chronicle dialogue, read the whole interview and read through it. And some of the things that you mentioned earlier stood out. When you say it's 2 years in, it's the start of year 3, and to me, I would say it's probably a year that we didn't expect him to be there. And if he's decided to do the food bank on a friendly, and then he's decided to do Radio Newcastle, you've got to ask yourself that during COVID, I think we needed him more. I think people were locked up in the houses. I think it's that time that you want a manager to come on and give you some faith. And if you think last year, before we got Graham Jones in, when we just wondered where our next point was coming from, I think that's the time to do it, to try and, be credible and stand up and say, look, and get some players on and say, we're doing everything we can. But when you then go on, there's a couple of things I picked up that you didn't mention, Stephen. The obvious one you said is, why would you, with a depleted squad, and why would you with a, and I say depleted because we've just got the same numbers as we finished last year with, and I think they've got through by a skin of our teeth. Why would you then tell everybody that Murphy and Richie can't defend? Why would you say we're working on it? Or why do you say the coaches are working hard with them to do it? Because that gives me no hope. And that's him saying, well, when I put them fullbacks, they can't defend. So I don't get that.
He did that last season a few times, Keith, after games. He would hang people out to dry.
Yeah, and that is his nature. And if you look at the great managers, like I didn't say Keegan hang people out to dry. I think that's kept the dressing room, and I didn't think Bobby Robson did that. Even when the fights were going on in Bobby Robson's era, he still didn't hang the players out. So that to me is man management. But he mentioned Joe Linton, and when I read the article in depth, I mean, Steve's brightly just touching on each button, which is great. But on Joe Linton, for a £40 million investment, I think it's Steve summed up. He said, like, Joe, I hope so. But like, when you earn £500,000 a year, you can't hope. You've got to say, he's improved from this period to that period, because there was signs of improvement from the start to where he finished at. And what we're doing is we're putting him through a series X, Y, and Z, and we're going to do things with him. I was disappointed with the Joe Linton thing. The Graham Jones thing, there was more than one question on Graham Jones. It's about 3. And he was more focusing on who brought him in and whether he brought him in and whether Graham Jones is in charge or not. But the biggest disappointment of the whole interview to me was the new signings. When the way I read it was, when we're looking, and never say never was how happy you look. I was like, really? You honestly think you could take the team that finished last season into this league with all the money being spent? Because like people like Palace and them have spent a lot of money. When you look at the signings, they've got 7 and 8 signings. And if you're sitting there saying, well, never say never, for me, I really expect that interview to say, We expect 2 loan signings. We haven't finished spending yet, and we're going to get take a couple of free transfers or something. But we're going to get numbers in. We want to strengthen 3 positions. But I didn't hear any of that, so I came away flat. And I think hats off to him for coming and doing so, because it's better that he goes to the food bank, meets the fans, and does this. But there was nothing in there that I said there was no wow factor at any point.
Yeah, there was just a reiteration, as you say, of there's probably not going to be many more signings, and he was happy with what he had. Happy with what he had up front, which was bizarre, head scratching at times. Yeah,
I think he said. I think the first he said. I think he said we're stronger up front than at any time previous.
That's exactly what he said.
And so what I'm saying is, so call me a dream, whatever. If I was playing the last 15 minutes of the game and Andy Carroll was on, I'd expect to get kicked about the pitch. So he's gone. Gale now looks a lot worse than he did 2 years ago. He looks totally disinterested. And then you look at it and you think, well, he's not going to play Almeida up front. He's not going to play St. Maxim up front. And I look at it and I think, it is just, one player. And that one player gets injured. But I don't see how we're stronger today than we were then. I don't get it, because there was even kids in the reserves 2 years ago that had promised they might make it. They said, "Oh, why'd you give him a go? Why'd you try him?" But now I would say we're down to the absolute bare minimum. And his words were, "We're stronger than we've ever been any time." So to me, it was right, fans. You get no more strikers. That's where I read it.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, listening, we'll look for your comments on that. Just drop them into the YouTube message box. We were talking on WhatsApp a little bit earlier today, guys, and Mitch, obviously in the press conference that Steve Bruce gave looking ahead to the game, it doesn't sound as if our goalkeeping situation is going to get any better anytime soon, and he did touch on it briefly on Radio Newcastle last night, in an attempt to get youngsters really to take their COVID jab. He was saying, from Carl Darlow's point of view, we need to make sure that people under 30 take this seriously and get their jabs, because ultimately Darlow is really being hit badly by this. But doesn't sound as if there's any light at the end of the tunnel for Dubravka either.
Well, then there's two things here with it, and they're both medical. And the first one is related to I'm talking about putting 4 keepers into that squad, because he's got uncertain time frames for Dubravka and Darlow. Firstly, as a club, apparently we still have one of the lowest vaccination records amongst our players. If our players cannot wake up and see what's happened to Carl Darlow, a fit young man, a professional footballer, who has an uncertain timescale to return, and you still haven't gone round and got yourselves your jab sorted, and the club isn't turning around and saying, "Do you know what, get your asses over there and get it done. Let's get everybody at the training ground and get it done." It's not hard to organise, I'm quite sure, for a professional football club. Of course, we are not a professional football club. We're not even an amateur football club. We're just a shambles. And this is the kind of thing medically that's going on. And yeah, it should be a wake-up call to young people. It certainly should be a wake-up call to the rest of the squad members. Get it sorted, lads. Get it sorted out, because what happens if that then rips through our squad and we get games cancelled and we're put in a deeper hole and we don't know when we've got other players coming back? We've already had St. Maximin and Lascelles missed significant portions of last season with it. And now that there's evidence that if you get another variant, you can still be pretty damn ill with it. You need to be vaccinated, and the squad needs to be vaccinated, and that should be the wake-up call, not just for you, I, and everybody else on the street. It should be a wake-up call for our squad and our club. And then the news today suggesting, I'm hearing from within the club, that this foot injury that Dubravka has is exceptionally serious. There is no time frame to return, and the word that was used by somebody connected to the club was that he had an infection. And if that's the case, the infection in the surgical site sounds bloody serious, because there's concerns about not just his return to play, about his career. Apparently, this is the severity of this foot injury and what's happened subsequently from the surgery. And again, here we are, key player in that squad. I know infections can happen in surgical sites. I deal with it nearly every bloody week. But you'd think this is a situation that probably could and should have been managed better. And so if they're seriously talking about naming all four, and yet we've got an uncertain time frame on two keepers, and I don't care whether it's Dubravka, whether it's Darlow, whoever, what we, I think, need to do now is be hard and say, right, whoever's got the longest return to time, you're not going in the squad till January. I'm sorry, we need to have outfield players in that squad, not four goalkeepers. And therefore, we'll run with the three who are fittest, and then the one who returns last isn't added to the squad till January when we sort out what's going on in the long run. And I think that's the only way to do it. And if it happens to be Darlow, there's another wake-up call for the rest of the squad to get your bloody vaccinations sorted out, because somebody's been left out of the squad because he caught COVID. And I wish them all the very best of recoveries. I want them back tomorrow. But again, this just to me feels like organisational shambles in the back room within the medical team, trying to keep up with everything and trying to play catch up with a squad of players who still go around acting like it's a bloody school trip, and these things are bloody serious, and COVID in particular is exceptionally serious still now. I'm lucky out here. We're almost back to some sort of close to vague normality. I even sat at the bar with a pint last night. How exciting was that? I was like so excited. And that's that. And the biggest thing is the fact that we're in touch and distance of being back to normal again. Because that bar's not felt the same since that corner of the bar's been populated. And so it's creeping back to some vague normality. But that doesn't mean we should be laissez-faire and blasé about it all. I'm due my second round, and sure as eggs is eggs. I'm waiting for the text message to pop up that me appointment's done and booked from the DHA out here. And I would urge everybody. I cannot believe some of the arguments I see about vaccinations and about what people are going on. It's a fluid situation. Yes, the vaccines are probably being made quicker than any other in the past, and I get people being wary about it, but some of the absolute tosh and utter shite I read on social media passed around, I'm going to have a serious Twitter meltdown one day on someone passing crap around, because I'm just tired of it. The only way to curb this is get vaccinated, and I urge the club to get the players together and knock their heads together and get them vaccinated as well.
Yeah, Steve Bruce was certainly clear on that last night, certainly told to get the message across to people as well, so fair play to him for that. And I think, our very own John from QTech sitting in the chat, he had both his jabs and still ended up laid up in hospital for at least a couple of weeks, and his recuperation, thank the Lord, is going well, but he's still off his feet until at least the back end of September, which shows you this is serious, you know what I mean? And it's becoming a nightmare. And while you mention that, it puts everything into perspective. And I've said this time and time again over the last 15, 16 months. Try to get the message across to some of the people on social media, that ultimately, yes, we're all Newcastle fans. We all want what we want. We all want the same thing. We want a successful team. We'd love to see a trophy. We'd love to see the back of Mike Ashley. We'd love to see the back of Steve Bruce in an ideal world. But, in the grand scheme of things, there's thousands of people dead in this country, millions of people dead across the world through COVID, a pandemic, something we've never had to deal with in our generation. And now we've got the added problem of Afghanistan, which I'm sure we've all watched unfold on TV this week. And in the grand scheme of things, people are inboxing us about the local nutter who's, continually making, libelous and defamatory videos about us. I couldn't give a monkey's about him, because in the grand scheme of things, he's not important either. We could all generally, when you look at life properly, have a lot more important things to worry about than Newcastle United. We've all got to worry about our health. We've all got to worry about our loved ones. We've all got to worry about how we're going to pay the bills. And in the grand scheme of things, Newcastle United, nutters in sheds and things like that just aren't really important to me. Do you know what I mean? And I don't have a sleepless night. I'm very lucky in the sense that I have a I have a lovely family, and I've got security, and that's all that really matters. And what happens at Newcastle, I'm a big fan, of course, as everybody knows. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not the most important thing in my life. And to fall out with it, to the degree that some people do on social media over it, and like I've seen again this week, the horrendous things sent, once again to Keith for daring to suggest maybe he's doing something different. It's just absolutely horrendous. I wish people would just grow up and realise that there's more to life than football. And that's the end of my sermon, Steve Hasty, but I'm sure you've got something similar to say as well.
No, I mean, you're absolutely spot on, Steve, in what you're saying. And I mean, I don't know about you. You weren't at the game on Sunday, but I walked in, and there was an air of trepidation because I was walking into somewhere I'd never been for nigh on 2 years, and I'm looking around in the 1892, get to your seat, and you're looking around and seeing, is everybody here? Are the lads that I speak to in front? Is the guy who I sit next to? Are the couple behind who you haven't seen for that long? Are they still here? And when you see an empty seat, you're going, Christ, I hope they're on holiday. I hope they're not here. And then, of course, George wasn't at the match with me on Sunday. And I had people tapping me on the shoulder. Where is he? Where's George? Is he okay? Is everything all right? And I'm going, yeah, don't worry, he's fine. But that's the sort of, that was what I was going, and obviously wasn't the only one. Other people were in exactly the same boat because we've gone through so much with what is a ridiculously random virus that you've got no control over. You could be a professional footballer, you could be a politician, or you could be a bus driver, an ambulance driver, a maintenance man, no matter what. But there's no way of being able to discriminate between any of those 5 groups or any group in terms of being able to say, well, you'll not catch it, but you will. That's how random it's been. We've now got professional footballers. In Arsenal, for example, I think they've got 4 players out this weekend who have all caught COVID, including their 2 main strikers who they lied about and didn't say a single word about. They just said they were injured. And then it turns out that the game's carried on. It turns out that the APL has no rules laid down for when a game should have to be cancelled because there is COVID ripping through a squad. You've got 4 players in an Arsenal squad who have all tested positive. What does that say for the rest of the squad? How many of them are asymptomatic, etc., etc.? Were they immediately taken and sent for tests themselves? We've got no way to know. And it's a game.
Steve, the contact tracing alone for that would be an absolute effing nightmare.
Yeah, absolutely. You can guarantee. But we've obviously got players that are just like us. They're going about being told they can go about their own normal daily business, but they have, as professional footballers, super fit. They are running the risk of catching this disease, and exactly the same as a 60-odd-year-old bloke is, or a 50-odd-year-old woman, or an 18-year-old lad, or a 15-year-old still at school. It's so random. I feel for Cardallo because he's obviously had it really bad. We're talking about someone who ended up in hospital in the same way as our friend John has. That's what it's about. That's the seriousness of it. And, to hear Steve Bruce come out, I thought was very honourable and very correct in what he said. Same with Neil Warnock earlier in the week when he was having a go at berating some of his younger players who just didn't seem to want to take the whole matter very seriously. But it's also, to me, it's the lack of any leadership in the APL. The lack of leadership from within the clubs and within APL board for putting rules and regulations down to say how they're going to can't handle this, because at the end of the day, they're just so desperate to get the games on, so desperate to get the people into the ground, and so desperate to take your attendance money. That's what it's all about.
What was it we looked at once where we were looking for a particular Premier League rule? I can't remember off the top of my head. And there kind of was. The kind of was one, but it wasn't. Off the top of my head, I can't remember what it was.
But it's like the old bringing the game into disrepute, every eventuality, you farted on the team bus, you brought the game in disrepute, or outside the referee's room, which is exactly the same if you smacked them in the face. It's so ridiculous.
You would think in the middle of a pandemic, you compare this to what the NFL's got in place now. And the rules they've got about vaccinations for players, The rules have got about people stepping outside of bubbles and what contacts you have in training. The rules about if you get a game cancelled. You should see the fines the NFL have put in place. Not only if you are responsible as a club for getting a game cancelled because your squad's riddled with COVID, the fines are horrendous. You forfeit the game. They've come out and said there ain't no spare weekends. We've added a game to the schedule. It's a 17-game schedule now, so there ain't a free weekend that you can come and catch that game up. So you'll just forfeit it and be fined to the hilt. And the rules have been very strict, and there's players being cut from squads now. You know, they're getting down to the NFL starts in another 3 weeks' time, and they're getting down to get their rosters down, and people are going to be cut. And I'm telling you now, people are going to be cut because they refuse to take a vaccine, because the clubs can't afford to have a game called off. Whereas we haven't got a rule about what to do in that eventuality in the Premier League. What an absolute, yet where this is supposed to be the biggest game in the world. What an absolute load of bollocks.
The biggest league in the world, the most prestigious league in the world.
What an absolute load of bollocks. Absolute load of tosh.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Keith. I mean, it's just sad to hear, isn't it, about the problem that we've got with the goalkeeper situation. Woodman, I mean, hopefully will be the one to capitalise from this. And I mean, you were at the game on Saturday, something which I didn't have the luxury of doing last weekend, Sunday, sorry. But the performance by Woodman was probably spoilt a little bit by the defence in front of him.
I think there was a turning point in that game, and I pointed out in a tweet. It was when the lad made a save, for a penalty. And anybody who saves a penalty, no matter what happens with it, if you get a penalty, you push it out. You should be pushing out the defender. It's as simple as that. There's no explanation. If that's all you're practicing training, it's a gimme for me that you should never get beaten for a penalty by an opposition player. And if he'd been knocked into touch, it was 2-2, and that lad saved the penalty, and it's advantage Newcastle. So for me, it was his Premier League debut, for God's sake. So where's the slack? But there's people who are happy to slaughter him on social media, which is what you were just saying that I've had a week with. But you look at him and I just think I'm old enough in the tooth to take it. Mitch sent us a message today, a concern, and I think it's great. And so did Joe from Middlesbrough. The two tipster. He sent us a message, "Are you all right?" And I said, "Well, of course I am, because I'm older." But when the kid's 24, he's made his debut. Oh yeah, man! Like the kid saved a penalty, and 10 of our players couldn't get before 3 of theirs. Get a grip of yourself. What's going on? How do you, why do you get paid all in tens of thousands to not be able to beat somebody in a sprint? And to me, what I'd have done is I'd have practiced that. I'd have had people along the box, but I'd have had runners coming in. For the minute he runs up to take his run, I'd have had people running through gaps to beat, and the least I would have done is challenge anybody who went for the ball.
Yep.
So for me, it does give that lad a chance. God forbid, Martin de Bradford, what an honest pro. And for that lad to have the kind of injuries we hear, like infection. And infection's a horrible thing because it's not something you control. And once it's in, getting an infection out is sometimes in the lap of the gods, whether it does come out or it doesn't come out. And when you think it could be career threatening, you think to yourself, good God, that's what puts things in perspective for me. And then when you talk about people on here and you talk about like 2 lads on name, Johnny Justice, Johnny Allen, you'll not meet a nicer, friendlier bloke. He's been down here 3 times, and when he comes down, it's just a pleasure to have him turn up your house. And I really genuinely have a lot of time for the fella. Mickey Edmondson, I've known him for 25 years, and spoke to him today. And there's 2 lads who couldn't guarantee they were going to get through COVID. Them 2 lads who had warning signs that COVID could beat them. So for me, I've got a little bit of a different view. You 3 is I don't think it's that. I think it's a document from the club's lawyers to all the players to say, part of your work conditions as of Mondays, you'll get injected or you will be considered for selection. End of. Bollocks to all the slavering around. I've run companies, I've run people with hundreds of staff. And as long as you treat them as you want to treat you back, and if you say, I'm going to do this because I don't want you to be a hindrance to the lad next to you who's had injections. I don't want you to be a hindrance to your family when you go home. And you know, somebody from a HR department can sell that and say, you all are getting injections. So when I can touch people, when I can think about Johnny Allen and think of Mickey Edmondson and think what COVID's done to them, and then you're talking about people that's earning millions of pounds a year, and I have to be convinced of why they're not having an injection. So to me, I think every single person from the reserve squad, under 23 squad, the whole lot, everybody that goes to that football ground will be injected. Every member of staff, if cleaners aren't doing it, get cleaners who have had 2 injections. If there's groundsmen, do the same. There's coaches, every single person, and use the club's power and the club's spend to be able to get medical staff in to come and inject them at the ground within our facilities, to bring a facility to Newcastle United. So anybody that comes in this ground will be 2 injections minimum, and to do regular tests to get it, because what we're hearing about Darlow for a lad as fit as him is bloody worrying. What you hear about Dubravka is heartbreaking, and that's why this week, there's been a lot of crap put my way, and honestly, it's one of a tough part. I've had a cracking week, me. I've had a great week on my property side. I've had a cracking week progress with the car. I've had some good progress with families. I've been talking to friends I've supported over 20 years, and I've met a lot of people this way. I haven't seen for years. I was with fans last night. A couple of fan groups last night. I met them at 6:30, and I was still with them 12:15 in the car park. Just listen to them and listen to the enthusiasm and try and explain why I've done my bit. It's now your turn. And I've got to say, I come on the show as positive as hell, and I've got good lads like Mitch and two tipsters saying, are you all right? And I've never been better. I'm like really, really buzzing this week. I'm looking forward to going out tonight. And I don't know, I feel like motivated, and I feel that what I did by coming on the show tonight was trivia compared to COVID, and trivia compared to Dubravka and Darlow. So to me, Steve Wraith put it so well tonight. Football is important, Newcastle's important, but it's not everything, you know what I mean? And I have no shame in saying that. I love Newcastle, but there's things I love more, and there's people I love more, and that's what's important. And you've got to put this in perspective, you know what I mean? Like if someone said to me, you can have Mick Edmonds and Johnny Al sat next to you, but you don't see another match again, well, I'd tell you that. I just say, I'm not seeing no more matches, or I'll watch it on the telly, you know what I mean? So to me, it's been a week of putting things in perspective, and I've got no regrets, and I'm pleased to say that all I did was put a couple of good ideas out to say, some of you guys are still fighting. Maybe you should think of them 2 things, and I'll help you, but I won't be doing it. I won't be running anything. So it's been a good week for me, and I've learned a lot, and I just think that we're getting the balance now. Steve, you just said something earlier about Christmas. I don't see any chance of any takeover Christmas, because if the rumoured parties that's sniffing around now, they need to spend the money by February, and the existing group that's in there now, you wouldn't get a cut action through probably till Christmas now if it started. If even everything went, there was no appeals, you would get that in September. So I think that's why Steve Bruce is pushed out. I think the charm offensive is to say, look, lads, you've got him. But I'll be staggered if Ashley didn't say we're going to have to bring 4 more players in for him, because Steve Bruce can do all the food collections, he can do all the presentations on radio. He could come meet the fans. I think he's going on radio next week. But you've got to realise that he's going to struggle. And instead of just slaughtering him, you've got to say, we're going to have to give him 4 more signings, because we're not going to get through with this squad. Wilson gets injured in September, tell us what happens, because I'll tell you what we need down by Christmas. Steve, you're mute, Steve.
Yeah, sorry, it was because you know what's happened, Johnny? I don't need to tell people at home now. Yeah, exactly. Wallace came in, and I'm thinking, God, she's not going to put the washing machine on. If I was funny last night, having Malcolm in my kitchen doing the show, he could actually see what was going on. Dawn was cooking the tea and all that. But yeah, absolute classic. All right, we're going to break the show up a little bit. We've got one of our regular segments now. Tweet of the week, and before we get into it, I did want to pick up on this because I know a lot of people don't bother reading the Chronicles website, but they did every now and then. They do come up with a gem, and they came up with a little article about ruined football shirts, which I thought was quite funny, and they got it from the Twitter account @ruinedshirts, which is definitely worth a look. I mean, the opening gambit there with Beckham spelt BECKAM tells you where we're going with this. So obviously they'd done the research, gone through it, and found some Newcastle United classics. First one, Shola Amioba.
Shola Amoeba.
Instead of Amiobi, Shola Amoeba. And these are genuine shirts, by the way, which people are now selling, I think, on eBay, by the looks of it. And Bemba. You've got to wonder whether this is the person who's going in and getting the shirt, or whether this is the person at the club shop or wherever they've got this done. This one, Dummeldini for Dummit.
Oh my God!
That's obviously somebody's preference. That's one of them things you say when you're down the pub with your mates, isn't it? When you clearly rate the player and everybody else doesn't. But yeah, I mean, Christ, I mean, at £1.50, £2 a letter, that's going some. Fabrizio Curlicini, which I thought was quite good. Bearing in mind that he had curly hair too, which I thought was excellent. There was a bit of criticism of anybody who gets goalkeeper tops with other people's names on. Now, I could understand the sentiment for this one because Keegan in that guy's mind is number one. Yeah. But obviously he was criticised by the Chronicle article. They were saying, well, you know, anyone. I saw another one with Krull 1, but on the back of a black and white top, which didn't quite go. This amused me. John McCririck 9, and it was signed by John McCririck, of course, the original Toon Tipster. Had the pleasure of actually doing a pilot episode of a TV show with John, and we did keep in touch after that. But John was a bit of a Geordie legend and often seen on Channel 4 Racing doing the tic-tac-toe. But that shirt was just a nice little tribute to him. It was criticised, I guess, by the people wondering why they had McCririck on, but he was a big Newcastle fan, so clearly something which they got signed. This one couldn't have been worn much. Goal Linton. And number 9, I do actually remember seeing that one, to be fair, on the back of somebody. So yeah,
like that one.
Well, yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's just I saw one. Somebody had Bruce 69 on a one down at Rotherham in the pre-season friendly this season, and look, each to their own. People have their own reasons for putting these things on the back of shirts, and just thought that would make an interesting little start to tweet of the week this week. Okay, Steve and me often pick through. There was a couple of late contenders. Steve, I did manage to squeeze that one in. You sent this earlier, which is great. This is the first one from James Miller. Now, I haven't been up to the ground this season, other than the Norwich game. But I must have gone a different way, and I missed this. But James isn't happy about the way the strawberry looks, Steve.
Exactly, and look, it's even worse in reality. Absolute disgrace that was allowed to be built around the strawberry. And I've had my rant about this on a number of occasions over the last few weeks. Looks like a giant Meccano set at the back, doesn't it? It looks ridiculous. It's absolutely scandalous. It's just going to dwarf and swamp the pub. Thank God the pub's still there. That's all I can say. But the question is for how long when you end up with a monster like that next to it.
Yeah. This one tickled us from the old mate Ronnie Batista. He tweeted this on Sunday morning, just with the words breakfast. And chicken chow mein and chips and some spring rolls.
Spring rolls as well, yeah.
Spring rolls in there as well.
We've all been there. We've all done it.
So I did tweet him. I went, "Oh, looks nice." He went, "Yes, and it's cold."
Yes. Right.
I
bet you Ronnie's toilet was a delight the next day after that.
Before the days of the microwave, they were always cold, I tell you, Steve.
Stephen Baker tweeted this. You get your free match tickets in the Shields Gazette because Sunderland's a massive club.
Got to collect free tokens.
Christ, we've added 2 verses this season already. We're only 2 games in. Jesus.
You keep forgetting they actually exist as a football club, but yeah.
Well, I said through the week, I totally didn't realise I'd just lost with everything I've had going on this week. I picked up 48 hours later that they'd lost at Burton.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Yeah, what?
That was probably only because that video started doing the rounds again. The Burton Albion video, because but yeah, I was tuned into that, especially the fact that we'd been down there and played them in the pre-season.
I think tunes of Sunderland's a massive club could become a regular feature on this show. We could get one a week till the end of the season at this rate.
I think you're right. Don't worry. Yeah, definitely. This one was good from Fire and Skill. Yes. Remember when iPhones first came out and everyone was buzzing because you could tip them sideways and pretend to drink a pint or toss paper into a basket?
Yes. We all did it.
Great stuff. This one from Badger.
Yes, this was after the defeat, wasn't it, against Brentford. Arsenal have just submitted a 45 million bid for Joe Willock. I tell you what, the way they're going, they're spending an awful lot of money, aren't they? You know, and I'm not seeing there's any quality coming in, perfectly honest. It's weird what's going on down there.
Yeah, this one was from Charlie Bennett. He says, imagine if the European Super League went ahead. Moments like Brentford playing in their first top-flight game since 1947, ripping apart Super Club Arsenal, never won the European Cup, would not have happened ever again. This is the sport we all love. Don't fuck with it.
It was good. I spoke to my mate Gareth out here, who's a Brentford fan, and I sent him a text message at half-time, or a WhatsApp at half-time in the game. Are you erect? He says, no, I came on 22 minutes. I can't even get a semi on now. He was just absolutely beside himself. I'm yet to catch up with him properly, but I'd be delighted. I'm delighted for him, really, I am.
Great text up by Charlie. This one was good, Steve.
Yes, this was after Malcolm and John Gibson didn't get access to the game on Sunday. Supermax should be able to take a shit in the centre circle and have Ashley wipe his arse whenever he feels like it. Absolute legend. I fear it's because of his opposition to the way we are run and the voice he has.
I couldn't agree more, Mark Joseph. Luckily, Alan Foggin wasn't able to attend the game on Sunday, so Malcolm did manage to get in. Gibbo watched it in front of the TV, as you'll have seen last night. And just big shout out to the guys at the Plough, Alan and Chris, for organising the event that we had at the Plough in Deckham last night. Cracking night with Malcolm. And if you want to watch it back, although it's not the greatest quality, the sound quality is good. I did manage to broadcast live last night, so you can catch the two halves. They're in the playlist under Supermac and Gibbo show from last night's event. Lee C tweeted this one out. If someone told me in 2002 I'd be seeing people called NUFC the Maggies and I'd hear them chanting for Steve Bruce, I'd probably have never watched another game of football. Oh God, there's been some absolute.
Coming from, yep, I know where he's coming from.
There has been some absolute belters. Yeah. This one was one of the late ones from Jamie.
This is the late one from Jamie. There, my girlfriend told me that sex is better on holiday. It's not the best postcard to receive, to be honest.
Oh God, we do like these ones. Jerry, I know he's a regular who watches the show. Pleasure meeting one of the Fab Four. Hope your prediction comes true, Steve. That was nice to see, Steve, and I'm sure you're getting a lot of people coming up to see you at the food bank, mate. And you raised over a couple of grand again at the weekend, I think.
Yes, I think it came to 2,600 just over on Sunday, which is another fabulous donations from the very, very kind supporters in Newcastle United and some West Ham fans. We had a visit from the Hammers Food Bank guys who made some kind donations as well. It's always good to see them. I mean, the football club at West Ham are very similar to us in terms of the support, the type of people they are, the working class, people who look after each other, and that comes over very much when you're chatting to them on the side of the road before you go into the game. You know, smashing people. Got a lot of time for them. So big thanks to the lads from the Hammers Food Bank as well.
Yeah, well done to them. Absolutely brilliant to know that people want to link up like that. It's what makes, that's the one thing that makes football special. And although we wish we didn't have to go through food banks, it is great for that kind of thing to go on. I did like this one. I mean, Newcastle United, whoever's doing the social media, certainly doing a lot better than previous the previous incumbent of the job. Just, we might have got beat last weekend, but one positive was, Callum Wilson getting off the starting blocks early and getting the goal in the number 9 shirt, wasn't it, Steve?
Absolutely, and I know where Michael's coming from. He was probably, very, very disappointed, like the rest of us were, at the end product of a 4-2 defeat. But he probably got a bit carried away. Probably regretted what, perhaps. Maybe he didn't, but it was me.
I think. Look, it's one of them things. I tend not to tweet after a game, to be honest, unless I'm 100% positive. If I'm feeling a bit down, I tend to leave it the next day. Liam Gallagher, fucking hell, didn't know more than one team could win the Premier League in the first week. Congratulations to you all, spunk bubbles. You'll never learn. Man City Football Club. I just love that. I really do like Liam Gallagher's Twitter account.
That's somebody who does tweet straight after a game.
Of course it is, yeah. Lee Johnson, not the first time Lee has featured on our Tweet of the Week, and this was in the build-up to the Steve Bruce talking. Wonder if Craig Hope brings BBC Radio Newcastle to speak with Steve Bruce.
I wonder if he did. Yes,
I did see his tweet after the game, and he commented he was still sitting in the stands, poor bugger. But it's the way it goes. Terry, yes, just a quick reminder that it's all Steve's fault. I haven't seen anyone say it for a while. Thanks, Terry. I thought this was a good one as well. Ian Hull pointed out that Toon Poles, who had posted the picture of Shelby bending over with wings, Castori wings on his back. Fair play to Newcastle for investing some wings for Shelby to help him get around the pitch a bit quicker. Very good. Whoever got that photo, absolute belter. This one didn't quite make the lookalikes, but Lily sent it a couple of weeks ago and I missed it. But I did find it. So big shout out to Mrs. #9Talks. The lookalike of Mike Ashley there.
That's down in Sunderland at one of the stations, I believe, if I remember right. It's been there for quite a while, but they're well spotted. Absolutely brilliant, well spotted.
Yeah, and this was well spotted as well. Carl Thompson said, "Great to be back today. How are the lads? I was just saying to our lass, that's Old Titonian from the Steve Braith show right there. I thought it was a woman from here. Toon look-alike anyways. Not quite a Toon look-alike, but yeah, he was looking down over the stand. And he's pointing to the woman on the right who's got white hair. And in fact, it's Steve Hasty in the Illuminous jacket. So it didn't quite make the look-alikes, but it made us giggle, Carl. And I'm sure it made everybody else laugh as well.
Buy us a telephoto lens next time, lad.
Mark Fleming made us laugh as well. He's got this photograph of Richard Keys, who was enjoying a pint outside in the sun, which again wasn't quite a look-alike, but just thought it was worth a mention in Tweet of the Week. And finally, this one, Sport Bible, not Newcastle related, but final Tweet of the Week. Arsenal fans before the kickoff versus Arsenal, and then the fans 30 minutes into the game. I thought that was rather funny. If you see any tweets which you think could be used on Tweet of the Week, feel free to send a message to any of us on Twitter. But thanks for your suggestions and keep them coming. Thanks very much. Okay, it is 6:25. That first hour has flown over and we haven't got to the main talking point of the week yet. So I think we will go to that after I've given the sponsors a shout out. And that is a big thank you, as always, to Spider VPN, who have been with us for the last few months. Google Spider VPN and you will find them at the top of your Google search list. They can protect your computer, save your phone numbers, photographs, whatever you want, but get in touch with them. They are the boys to trust on that score. And skipsandbins.com. Thank you to you too. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay as you go waste collection. And John at qtechshop.co.uk. The makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend in Newcastle. And also the guy who runs our website. Don't forget, t-shirts still on sale. London Calling t-shirts with the likes of Rob Lee and Les Ferdinand on, and a man who celebrated his birthday this week, Ryan Taylor. Over the wall t-shirts available, £15. just get yourself onto the website, nufcmatters.com. We've also got one of our other snazzy black and white football tops, which I saw Kenny Ranson wearing the other day, which was nice. So good to bump into him last night as well. Also, a big thank you to L&G Family Funeral Directors. You can contact them on 01913 389 7245. And to Darren Baldwin Funerals. Telephone 01914 478 273 or email Darren at darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk or jump onto the website www.darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. Now, we've got a little bit of a treat this week, and this is if you haven't subscribed. And if you have subscribed, you're going into the same draw. I've got a big event coming up in a couple of weeks' time, and it, of course, involves Newcastle United legends. And for the record, we have a big event going on at the Tyne Theatre. Now, this Saturday, the 4th of September, there are no games that weekend, and it's an evening with Steve Howie, Liam O'Brien, Rule Fox, John Beresford, Supermac, Darren Peacock, John Anderson, Kevin Scott, all attending. John Gibson is hosting and interviewing the players. Joe Allen will be there as well, doing a bit of comedy. And all we're doing is anyone who's subscribed to the channel goes into a draw. We're going to give away 2 VIP tickets for this event. So anyone who hasn't, don't miss your opportunity. We're going to randomly pick the winner out, and that will be on my return at the end of August. So 2 VIP tickets for that event. All you've got to do is subscribe to the channel. So click subscribe. How do you do that? Well, you go onto the bottom of the page, click the Newcastle Legends logo, and that's it. You have subscribed to the channel. It's free. Hit the thumb up to like the video, click share to your social media, and drop into the comments box to speak to other like-minded Newcastle fans. I will pick out the winner at random in the next week or so. And if you're on podcast duty tomorrow morning when you're walking your dog, jump onto iTunes, Spotify or Podbean, and you will be able to listen back to any of the shows we've done over the last 15 months. Don't forget as well, Matchday Bucket is still operational. For those of you who can't get the games, NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk is the website. You can virtually drop in some cash to the food bank and still get a chance of going into the draw for the watch. Malky Taylor was asking if the pool night had been resorted. As soon as John gets back on his feet, the date will be organised for that. And Kenny Ransom was asking about the Christmas do. 19th of November is the confirmed date for that at the Irish Centre. I will be in touch with ticket holders probably in the next 10 days just to inform them what they've got to do. But rest assured, everyone who paid for a ticket will still be able to go. And yes, there will be tickets available for those of you who haven't already got tickets to come. So we will be pushing that probably at the start of September. So that covers all of the stuff that I wanted to get out of the way. And Keith, will come to you now because you were moonlighting this week on our friends channel, the Loaded Football one. I think we've all done a stint on there now. Big shout out to the lads. If you haven't already subscribe to Loaded Football. Great show hosted by Daz and Martin, and obviously a few of the regulars are also contributors to this show, Chris Hall and Pete Davey and Rich Story. So you went on there and you caused a bit of a stir with suggesting. How dare you suggest that there's another legal case brought by supporters?
How could a fan ever suggest something that might make things better? I mean, it would be shocking.
Well, this is it, and I think the fact that, look, my view, and I told you, I'm actually at the point of just saying, stuff the takeover. I'm sick of it. I know Mitch is the same, but listen, because we're friends, we're all collectives. We all have times like that, and I think people just know just to leave me alone when I can't be chewed with it. But ultimately, you chucked that grenade in this week. In a well-intentioned way, and people just were quick to jump on you without actually realising what you were actually trying to say. For those who didn't see the Loaded episode, what were you trying to suggest, Keith?
The first thing I want to say is it had more viewings on the night, like double than what they normally get. And in terms of viewings, after 18 hours, it beat all their records. So the show was watched brilliantly. I want to say the 3 lads who were on were superb. I knew Pete because I'd met him in Rotherham with you, Steve. And, he was, they just had your back, and I just thought they were great. I thought the all three of them. I thought were absolute breath of fresh air. And what they did was they just said, what's happening? They did a loaded question at the start, which was what's happening? What's happening? What's the state of play at the minute? Why does the repeater being a lull? Why do you think fans? Why Steve Wraith was one person said was in there. Why are you down about it? You know what I mean? And so why has everybody just gone down? Was what they're hinting at. And then the last thing they said was, could anything be done by? I don't know if it was going back. I think they were talking about people outside the club to arrest the decline in optimism and make things better and give the takeover more chance. So I just answered honestly. I just said to them, and I have no regrets. I'm absolutely, I really enjoyed the show. I'd recommend anybody to go on, subscribe as well. I mean, I've watched it twice since, and I didn't even know about it then. So it's definitely one of the better shows out there, and the lads are all belters. And what they said to me is, I just said, do you want to be honest? Because people are asking why I'm a little bit quieter now, why I'm not as optimistic. And the answer is because I'm not as optimistic. I don't have to dress that up. You know what I mean? When I see, I think our maybe was responsible at the very start for getting the club to talk more to the buyers, to keep them in touch and keep them updated. And I just feel that for as little time ago as when Amanda and Murdoch were really praising the likes of Holly and everybody for putting their two penneth in down in London and saying, look, we'll be there to welcome you back to the ground. And, when they take it over, there's just a tremendous amount of optimism. And that just disappeared overnight, which is what I said to the people. I said, just disappeared. Literally, when that joint statement went out from the club, which said that the Premier League and the club were delaying the arbitration till early 22. And it was the early 22 which caused alarm because people thought that they'd put a date on it. And the other thing was the joint statement. And it became clear very soon after that the joint statement was done without the buyers' knowledge and involvement. And so then there was a few fears. And then people start asking a question. And, I talk to Steve Acey on a regular basis. I've only spoken once today, but we had nearly an hour. And it's like a tonic. And so me and Steve say, do you still think this? And do you still think that? We bounce stuff around, and I do with Liam. And the reality is if the club were happy to do a statement to say that the arbitration was going to be put back till next year, was that put back without the buyer's knowledge to allow another buyer to get involved? And then there's a load of rumours gone around about that. So that was the fear that somebody else was coming in. And this was after 97% of people, our fans, said we want this takeover. So that's why if you see Keith Patterson, you say, well, he looks a bit less positive because I'm human. You know what I mean? The club don't answer to me, albeit they've been great to us throughout this journey. They've treated us well, and they've spoken to us and kept us in the loop. And I've done a lot of work with them on the legal side, but it just feels as though, even though that case is powerfully and ready to run, it feels as though, will it run? And what I was saying to the fans the other night was, if for example, the argument goes as it's anticipated, which is the club signed a document to say they couldn't take an outside action, they had to do everything through the arbitration model, could the courts and the jurisdiction say, therefore you shouldn't run a cat case because you signed up to this? The club will come back and say, yeah, Newcastle United did, but St James Park Holders did. It's two separate companies, so it should get thrown out. But you were there, Steve, when I was talking to my QC, and he said, well, if I was representing them, I'd try and get an appeal. So what I did was say to the fans, if they were going to appeal, you've got to think ahead of them. You've got 4.5 weeks, 5 weeks, before this happens in court, before the jurisdiction happens. If you were to bolt on a class action or a mass class action where you showed losses of half a dozen fans, why could you appeal against that? So why, if fans put an action to say we can demonstrate loss, and the legal people would quickly show you who had loss, and if you could do that, I don't think you could throw it out on the same grounds. By the same token, we then went on and said, if, for example, the buyers attach themselves to the action. It would allow the buyers to go seek, and some say 17 million, others say 14 million, whatever the sum is. It's millions of pounds, certainly in excess of 10 million. And they would be able to bolt on the action for not a huge layout. And somebody then said, what would it cost? I said, well, you know, typically it would be no more than 100 grand. And then we compared, you know, how hard is it to get that kind of money? Because I think the business community would contribute to it if it thought it would keep things alive. And we put comparisons that it was about 40% of what's already been raised to buy 1% of the club. And you've got to sit there and say, if for example, go to that argument, if you went and targeted that 14,000 members of the trust and said 97% you want a takeover, what percent do you want to buy 1% of the club? And I think it'll be less than 97. So really, it was just throwing ideas around. And what we then went on to talk about was a protest, Steve. And we talked about that. We talked about 3 fans groups that were looking at that. And we were talking about the disappointment of sitting at the West Ham game of not hearing one single vociferous chant against the EPL or the cartel. But we heard the Mike Ashley get out of our club chant. And we said, well, he's prepared to get out of our club, but we've got to have a club that's saleable. So it was just good chat. It was massively well received. The comments were brilliant. I had about 550 DMs in 20 odd hours after that, and I never got a negative one. You know, and if anyone's trying to say that, if anyone wants to say in that period of 18 hours after, or even till today, from me doing that show till today, if someone wants to present a negative DM that they've sent me on that screen prior to me saying this now, I'm going to tell you that you're lying, because I haven't got one. There was a lot of people said, thank God that you're thinking outside the box. And Steve Acey's done this. You know, he's thought, what more could we do to make this public? What more could we do to make it expedited? So Steve and me, you know, we do this on a regular basis. And I know there's anything wrong in doing it, but I'm getting the same position as you do, Steve, Rafe, is that how can you remain positive about something where the buyers don't seem to be involved, and when there's, you know, where the club and the Premier League seem to have an institution of opinion that's been, it seems welded. It seems as though you know, there's no animosity now. It seems as though it's all calmed down. So that to me says that, well, the PIF consortium bid is further in the way of what it's been, and for them reasons, I wanted to speak out, and I chose that time. I just thought, well, now's a good time. The guys were more or less throwing the stage openers to talk. So I just said, look, I answered the question. Why I thought it was quiet, what I thought could be done that might make a difference, and why you know, I didn't have the same level of optimism that I might have had a month ago.
Yeah. Steve Hasty, I mean, obviously, you know, you do chat to Keith on a regular basis about these things. What was your take on the reaction to what Keith had to say?
If I'm going to be honest, I got the impression that 50-60% of the people who reacted negatively on Twitter, for example, and on other social media platforms, didn't actually watch the show, didn't actually listen to it, picked up on what somebody else had said, and developed their own little argument about it. I remember one phrase that Keith used that caused an absolute explosion, where he made a comment about a lawyer and a sex worker, and straight away people said he was calling a lawyer a sex worker, and he wasn't. Was that the lawyer is an expert in sex work, looking after casework for people who are involved in the sex industry.
That's right.
And yet, all of a sudden, it was like he's just called a lawyer a sex worker. and then they wanted to go out and they wanted to extrapolate that and trying to work out which lawyer he was talking about, which was again was ridiculous, because that's trying to cause a pylon. That's trying to cause a problem for a lawyer that they are then trying to hook onto, and it was nothing to do with that. It was Keith's way of trying to say.
He's not a competition worker. He's not a competition lawyer.
Lawyers, there are criminal lawyers, there are lawyers who specialise in this, there is lawyers who specialise that, and there's a particular lawyer that people keep referring to, who specialises that he's aware of specialises in helping sex workers in when they've been arrested or when they're in some sort of legal battle or argument. But this is what happens. People just they take a tiny little morsel of what they hear or what they get told by somebody, which is even worse, by the way. It's like the Chinese whispers. All of this ridiculousness is just like a game of Chinese whispers that's being played out by grown adults. It's mental. It's absolutely mental. And in terms of what Keith did, he floated some ideas to generate, in my mind, just to get the fans to start thinking. He's used the phrase that I use quite regularly: think out of the box. Sometimes when you come together, you start to debate issues. Then I can mention something to Keith, and Keith can come back and say you can't do that. For example, somebody said to us, and I saw it written up many times, well, why don't the Rubens or why don't PCP or why don't the Saudis just pay for it? It's only $100,000. They're the rich ones. But you can't do that. You can't finance somebody else's legal case in that way. Yeah. So there's lots of rational reasons. And it's not until you start to debate these and throw these ideas out and understand what the implications of them are that you can, before you can then throw them to one side and say that can't be done, that shouldn't be done, that doesn't need to be done. That's a runner. That's not a runner, and that's all. That's all we are at the moment. We're a bunch of fans now who are at the stage where we're getting frustrated, we're getting annoyed, we're annoyed by the silence. We're concerned. Those of us who were very much behind the case that we've now got this September 29 deadline, as Keith points out, could end up being appealed upon. And what Keith's trying to do, and what the whole exercise was trying to do, is trying to put things in place at that particular point that could mean that the chances of an appeal become less.
They diminish.
There's more chance of the appeal tribunal saying, okay, I'll listen to what you've got to say, but I'm not going to give you the right of appeal to that because I need to look at this side. And even if he parked half of it and he said, I'm just going to look at this bit, the bit that involves the fan loss, the bit that involves the consortium loss, that'll still give you, from my understanding, some of the disclosure that you're looking for that the Premier League are trying to hide. So
exactly.
I'm just laughing here, Steve, because in the chat we keep getting spammed by webcams, chat.com, hot girls and boys. Billy Trey's just come in and said, we've been invaded by solicitors.
Billy Trey, cracking me.
Maybe people are thinking that this is going to suddenly turn into the new equivalent of the watered down OnlyFans sites that are coming out. I don't know what's going on, lads.
I feel I should point out I'm not wearing my budgie smugglers mind at this point.
Thank the Lord for that.
Thank God, mate. Thank God. But you see when you talk about that, you're on a point. You say like if a solicitor who's anti-takeover comes on Twitter and he says, one of them said, the CAD case has got nothing to do with getting this takeover. So I show that immediately to competition people and they say, are these people plugged in? Because the normal lawyers, they say, are these plugged in, these people? That's why is that? He says, won't affect it. So if you got some disclosure that proved there's an illegal cartelling operation, it would crush the cartel and the EPL and everything else that goes around it. If you prove there's an illegal act going on in Britain, they won't be allowed to trade like that again. You'll crush everything. You take over, there'll be tiny detail in this. They'll just pass it. And so I said, well, why did they say it? And then the next thing is one of them lawyers comes back and says, I've just been on the law society. That's the solicitor you're talking about. And they might say, he's a conveyancer. He does property work, or he does commercial work, or he works in IT, fraudulent IT, or he represents sex workers and things like that. And I've put it out there and I say, bloke said that, and he's not experienced in competition law. So their opinion is worth zero. And on the show, I used a comparison which a few people's written to us about, saying, I love the comparison. I said, if you've got a joiner working for Newcastle Council and he's a good joiner, and he looks at the Chippendale chair and says, that leg's wonky, that doesn't make him a carpenter or make him a master craftsman. It makes him an idiot talking about somebody who doesn't know anything about. So you cannot just jump into somebody else's game. You know, like Mitch, you know, like it's like you're talking today about medical industry. You don't get an eye specialist walking in the heart department saying, "Mind, be careful with the stents." You know, they'll say, "What are you doing? You need to get him out." But on Twitter, the fans shout, "Get him in! He's a lawyer. He knows what he's talking about, him, man. He's a proper lawyer." Why? He's right in the back of the stump where he knows. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that I've paid millions of pounds for legal advice off the right people. And if I have a problem with a horse not being bred properly, and there's a chance that horse is going to die, and I go to a lawyer, I'll be going to a lawyer that specialises in equestrian. But I won't be going to someone who specialises in budgies. I'll go to the bloke who specialises in that game. Do you know what I mean? Though, like, why is it hard for people to work out? Why is this so hard? Because to me, it's just absolute logic. Competition law, talk to competition lawyers, and they argue with me, and I said I must be like a magnet. They come talk to me because they know I'm talking to the right people. They know what I'm saying. They know what I'm saying is hurting their arguments. So then they say
the other crazy part of the whole Ferrari afterwards was within what 10 minutes of the show ending, there was criticism that you had set up another War Funds page.
I know. I didn't set up the first one.
I know. That's where I was coming to.
Yeah,
the first one up, but then you were getting blamed for setting up the second one, which hasn't been set up and is not.
Hasn't been a second one. And the first one, them lads give everybody every penny back because I put 200 quid in and I got my money back. Every single person did, but it doesn't suit the lies. These people who troll about, it doesn't suit them if they can't make these lies up. I mean, one bloke this week, apparently I've been bankrupt and apparently I've been done for fraud. I haven't ever been anything like that. You know, my record's unblemished. I've never ever had any financial issues in my life. But it wouldn't sound good if you say Keith's a really ethical businessman. He always pays his bills and he's made a success of his life. That wouldn't sound good, would it, on a troll blog? So it's the same thing. But you know,
troll blog. What's it?
I actually saw a message that came up. I think it was either yesterday or this morning, that somebody sent me. It came from somebody who I don't follow, and I don't know whether I even got them. I think I might have them blocked, but I'm not too sure. But the message actually said that they thought this was all some sort of conspiracy by Steve Wraith and Steve Hasty to take control of NUST. And I was what?
You could have brought that into Tweet of the Week, for God's sake.
I know that certain things are left field, but when things come from left field of left field, then it becomes like, hang on, this is turned into... This is just people making stuff up, making mischief, trying to throw allegations out there about people, trying to get people to hook onto something and trying to cause discredit, disharmony in a fan base that's already split, already divided, already worried, already concerned about the manager, concerned about the no sale, concerned about the lack of players coming through the door, concerned about the fact we've still got the same owner and he's been there 14 years. You name it, we've got worries and concerns about it when it comes to football club. But then we get people throwing all sorts of other shit out for like, and us, what have we done? Nothing. Christ, if they think that's bad, just wait till next week when they hear some
I know.
Shows
the pre-records next week. That'll raise a few eyebrows,
Yeah, honestly, that will. I mean, you know, we've got it lined up for next week. With me having a bit of a sabbatical, and that's been like therapy for us. To sit and record those shows, and you'll see them. They're all premiered for next week, folks in the chat, and those of you who are playing catch up with us. And you'll thoroughly enjoy them. You've literally got a week full of the Fab Four next week. Me, Keith, Steve, Mitch are on all of the shows, and then there's one more show which we did with Steve Wilkinson. It was the final show where we look at the fans liaison committee, we'll look at the fans forum, and we'll look at the future. And it's just fascinating, but yeah, therapeutic. And I think you'll all understand a lot more about us. Some of you will know us directly. Some of you will have just got to know us over the last 15 months. But I advise you just to stick them on. They're not live because obviously it's the whole point of us recording them was so we could all have a well-deserved break. But believe you me, you'll thoroughly enjoy them. We enjoyed making them, and you know it's just been amazing to go back over stuff. that we've all been involved in over the last 30 years. I mean, Mitch, we've enjoyed it, haven't we, Mitch? It's been therapeutic.
More than therapeutic, and actually got me to talk about stuff I genuinely haven't spoken about for years, or even thought about for years, and gave me some perspective on. I said to you guys privately this week, and the last couple of weeks is the closest I've felt just saying sod all of this for a long time.
Yeah.
And doing those shows is probably one of the reasons why I have a little bit more motivation to not give up. Because there's a lot more reasons to not give up for the fan base, for the club, for ourselves, than there are too. Keith, you've got such a different style to me, and that's what came out during last week when people were taking your words and misconstruing them, and in some cases very deliberately. So, yeah. Keith will never stab you in the back. He'll gladly stab you in the front, but he'll never stab you in the back. And you'll know where it come from, or you got an opportunity to get out the way of it. There's a lot more people, a lot more devious than that.
Yeah.
My style is a little different as well. But that's what infuriated me last week, and then other people well-meaningly ran with a lot of different things. I saw that tweet where people were being graded into grades of fans, and I'll have none of that. I'll have none of that shit. I'm sorry, I won't. We're all fans, and we're all ultimately. You got to blame for that as well. You got to blame for that as well.
I didn't even know the bloke.
You've taken over from Steve as the person to blame.
I tried,
and that's
It was like stars in their eyes. Tonight I'm going to be Steve Wraith, and I come through.
Exactly.
He's got the ball.
So, absolutely.
And I won't have any of that. It's ridiculous.
Do you know the funny bit about all this? When I used to see Steve Wraith for all this, and I didn't know him, and I didn't think, well, some of it must be true. Because you don't know anything. All you do is when you just read it, you think, well, you can't have all that much shit if none of it's true. And I tell you something, I've been accused of more things this week than at any time in my life. I don't think I've been accused as much crap and lies. But I tell you something, I've come out the other end, not just stronger, but like more this week, tonight, I feel like really good. I feel not high, but I feel mega positive about like what I've got going on and where I'm going and what I'm going to do. So, but I think to myself, what happens when a person gets it who's suffered or is having a hard time at home or can't handle it? Because this was pushed, some of this crap that you get, these lies about your family and this, that, and the other, threats to you, and you know what the threats are. They must buckle a weaker person. Do you know what I mean? Like somebody turned around to me one day and said to us, that they're going to come and do it. And I just says, oh, the day I come for you, I won't be ringing you first. I'll just be behind you on your back. You know what I mean? So it didn't frighten me, if you know what I mean, even though I took one of them serious and give it to the police. But when it's people on here who have got mental health issues, or when it's got people who've got family issues, or if they've got like a member of the family who's in hospital suffering and they can't be bothered with it and they're getting it, it's totally inappropriate, like what's going on. But I tell you what, if all you nutcases out there want a target, chuck it at Daft Lad here, because I'll just take as much as you chuck, because I don't even read it. I don't even read half of it.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that. I didn't find it. I didn't find the recording, as Mitch says, therapeutic. I just felt that when we first started, I felt as though I'm going over stuff here that was really, really difficult at the time. And it still does give you a certain feeling of disappointment for the way that everything panned out over the years. And what it's when you look back and you think, why did I put up with that? Why did I put up with that? Why didn't I come out all guns blazing then for that? But And then you begin to think, well, why do I still bother? What
Yeah.
makes me want to carry on bothering with all of this after all these years from 2008 onwards? Why am I still here? Why am I now opening myself up on a podcast to discuss me thoughts and to be shot down in flames by people or whatever? The bit that I'm enjoying is I love the whole laugh and joke about this being in the pub and all that. But at the time when I was doing the recordings for next week, I was going, my mind was going, why am I doing this? What's I get? It wasn't until the end, and I had an opportunity to then sit back last night after we've done it, and I thought, you know what? If nothing else, people now can see what the fan base has been like over the years. What some of us who, and we use Steve's phrase, put your head above the parapet. What that means. And I saw people who put themselves up, for example, for the Supporters Trust. And I thought, God, do they know what they're going to get themselves into? Do they actually realise what this can turn into? This can turn into the most monumental bear pit, something that they will have no experience of ever being in before, and may not come out the other end. It can get you like that, and that's all the time we were doing those recordings. I was just thinking, God, mate, when you look back, if somebody had to, is all these people strong enough? Physically, mentally, more mentally than anything, emotionally, to be able to put up with what we've put up with over the last God knows how many years. And it's only then that I thought, well, now that we've done it, now that people can hear it next week, maybe it'll give them a different perspective on what it can be like when you're embroiled in this for years and years, and what you can expect. It's not an easy ride. You're not going to get an easy ride, because the minute you stick your head above a parapet, whether it's on NUFC Matters or any of the other podcasts or any of the fan groups, you are there. And I'll repeat the phrase that we used last night. There's a target on your back like you've never known for some people to aim at.
Yeah.
And it's not just herding cats, I've decided. It's herding tigers wearing meat gloves.
Yes.
It is so difficult and frustrating, and it's why I occasionally on here, remind people, anybody who's blessed with a platform like this, and it is a blessing. Come on, I get 2 hours on a Friday night to talk shit about the club I love with 3 of my mates, and we can talk about anything we want, and we'll have a daft laugh. We'll talk about stuff that you can carry on in the pub. We take the piss out of Steve Hasty, mainly with lookalikes and all that kind of thing, right? It's a blessing, and all of us who have a platform like this,
you're right,
should be trying to find ways to also make it constantly positive.
You're so right.
And I see too little of that elsewhere, and it frustrates the life out of us, because there's a lot of people there that I know and I like a lot, and you're like, why are you going this way? It's frustrating. I see what the lads at Loaded are trying to do. They're trying to. I think they genuinely are trying to be the men for all people.
Yeah.
And good luck to them on that. And I'd gladly go on the show again tomorrow. Me and Steve had a right laugh the last time we did it.
A good bunch of lads. I mean, look, that's again, that's why, when I reached out to people and said to them, come on the show and just be yourselves, and and they reached, I gave them an opportunity. They wanted to go off and try their own thing, so I allowed them to use the platform. I said, when you're ready to go off and do it yourself, go and do it yourself, and that's what they did. Colin saying, I can't believe the backstabbing from former guests. I mean, Colin, I've got no idea who you're talking about. I clearly either don't follow these people or they're blocked. But if there is people backstabbing, then, it's sad to say that that's just showing themselves up. It just shows their true character. It shows these people for what they are. And I really don't give a monkeys about what people say about me. I've told people this many times. I did the door for 18 years in Newcastle. I was called all the names under the sun. Name calling really doesn't bother us. And if people want to continue to do that, let them crack on. I'm not interested in any of the other podcasts. I support Loaded Mag because, the guys are good lads, good pals of mine, and still on our shows as well. There's one or two of the other ones. I bump into them, I see them. I saw people on the pre-season friendlies I went to. I think I saw 3 or 4 of the other podcast and podcasters, and I said hello to all of them. These are the same people who've been a bit sly and snide behind me back or had a pop. I've seen 1 or 2 who I've had fallouts with and who've been ready to shake my hand and just move on. And I don't have any animosity. I don't have a wrong word to say about these people. Whatever their opinion is, me, I can't change it. Let them crack on. We'll just continue doing what we're doing on this channel, which is have a laugh, create good content, and raise as much money as we can for the food bank. And we'll continue to do that for as long as we can.
Yeah. All I would say to Colin is, you know what? The thing with the backstabbers is that it's their problem, not mine, not yours, not Mitch's, and not Keith's. It's their problem. If that's what they want to do, let them get on with it. That's their problem. They'll have to live with that. They have to live with the way that they want to put out, because it's not harming us anymore. As I said, that that sort of, we've had it for so long that it's not water off a duck's back. It's just it doesn't influence us anymore.
Kirk's just said, can I just say, Kirk's just said to him on there, he comes on regular, Kirk, and I taught him on DMs and things, and he just put a great analogy there. He said, when you recognise that people who give you all this abuse online are in pain, they're paining about what you're doing, they're paining about how successful you are, they're paining about the number of followers Steve Wraith has, he's 40,000 people following, and then when Steve Wraith puts up this 3 million watch this, that, and the other, it must kill people, it must nag away at people and nag away at other lesser beings. And what he said is these people are talking from a position of pain, and when you understand their pain, you realise it's not personal. It's actually them expressing the pain they've got. Like that 4 million figure must absolutely pay on more dishes of cornflakes than anything. I mean, it's a phenomenal amount of people. And you look at it and you think, Jesus Christ. And it's not what some people want to read. And that's where I think them people get vociferous and nasty and do it. The other thing I would say about next week, Steve has put these shows together. And you go through these shows, and it was education to me, because through that journey, I had like Steve Wraith and a bit of Mitch say, get us some print and stuff like that. And you're taking all this print up with Steve, his latest campaign and things. And you watch that journey, but what Steve Wraith did, he put together like a week of that. But it was like what Steve Hasties just said. He said we worked out that in the 8 years he'd worked for one of the organisations at the club. He'd done 1,000+ hours. When I worked out later, Steve was nearly 2,000 hours. And yet he said, after that period, he still walks around Newcastle United, St James Park with a target on his back. And later on, offline, Steve, I said, when you've got a target, always that's people who want to shoot you. And we talked about who would shoot you and who was. But how would you give 1,000 hours to any darts team, carpet balls team, or chess team, and then get dog shit in return? How can you get people trying to shoot you? And that's what Steve Hasties had. And when you watch them shows next week, I promise you, you'll watch the first, and you'll be waiting for the next night's coming and the next night. And it was just, for me, because I've been around through all that period, it was still an education. And some of the things I heard from you lads was phenomenal.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, we are into the last half hour. Over 500 watching again live. Fantastic. Brilliant. As I say, we'll never take you for granted. And those figures I popped up on screen still blow me away. Thank you for all your support over the last month. And as Keith says, make sure you tune in next week for Newcastle United. It's going to be a roller coaster ride, and I think you'll all learn a hell of a lot. Some of it you'll know, but some of it will surprise you, I think. Okay, it is time to bring in our fifth musketeer. It's our very own Toon Tipster. Good evening, Joe. How are you?
Hello, lads. All right.
Hello, Pet.
What a pleasure it is to be next to Steve Hasty for a change. I've been waiting for that.
Yeah. How's our dad?
How's doing?
How's our dad now, Mum?
All right. What a week, eh? What a week.
What a week, son.
4-2 defeat. I got a new nickname from Keith. I got hounded in the dog and parrot by our greatest ever centre forward, and some fella called Super Mac badgered me, he did, for me photo for Twitter. I tried to explain to my dad about the importance of carrying a bank card in the 21st century. It's going to be an expensive season, this, for the Toon Tipster, Lenny lad. It's a good job, Steve. I've got multiple faith in Hoffman Bank and Co. And finally, I saw an England international get turned inside out by Alan Saint-Maximin. Mind you, ASM's body swerve wasn't the only quick heel turn of pace I witnessed. You know what's coming, Patterson.
What's coming, son?
Yeah. You should have seen how Keith, when it was his round, it was like trying to mark Johan Cruyff. He was there 1 minute, he was gone the next. Next week, I'm getting all them exits covered by Rafi and the lads. And I'm also going to bring in Spenny Mag to play sweeper. I learned that me and Uncle Mitch have got something in common last night. And I'm not talking about enjoying a quick tune tickle in the bath. So, with a long season ahead, going by that showing last week, we're looking to bounce back at Villa Park on Saturday. But as you can imagine, lads, we're just not fancied at all. For the second week in a row, we're second favourites at 3-1 for the win. The draw is 11-4, and Aston Villa are odds on at 4-5. There's goals fancied, unsurprisingly. And if you fancy over 2.5 goals in the game, and judging by our defence, which at times last week included John Joe Shelby and ASM, it could well happen. I just wanted to do a couple of comparisons when it comes to the scoreline tonight, just to give everybody a sense of where this book is at for Newcastle early in the season. If you fancy 1-0 Villa, it's 8-1. That's compared to 1-0 Newcastle at 14-1. 2-0 is 9-1 Villa, and we are 25-1. And 3-0 Aston Villa is 16-1, and Newcastle are 50-1. So we've already got a sense of where this book's going. More realistically, if you do fancy the draw, 1-all, 7-1, and 2-all is 14-1. Danny Ings is favourite to score any time, and that's a player I honestly wish Newcastle had looked at, by the way. And he's followed by Callum Wilson at 6-4. He's also 5-1 Wilson if you fancy him to score first in the game like he did last week. There's a whole load of Aston Villa players who come next in the list until we get to our usual 3-1 crew of Almiron, Joe Linton and Sam Maximin. And Joe Willock, who probably is going to play now in like the John Joe Shelby being knackered, Keith, you'll be pleased to know. Willock is 7-2 to keep his record up. And I think that's a great shout if you're a believer. It wasn't all bad last week, Steve Hasty. Callum Wilson got our food bank bet up for us. So there's £12 in the pot there, which I don't think's too bad after one game week. And hopefully, if he scores again this week, there'll be another £12.50 going in on top of that. I'm hoping we'll get a nice little return over the season. In terms of your tune tickle, Mitch, it is silly season, and this isn't a tip. This is just me fancying some odds. So here we go. This week, I'm going away from home. So Everton, Man United, Spurs and Chelsea all to win at 18-1. And I need that to come in because I'm in need of money quick. Oh, Keith's been on the internet all week with his new mates asking me for money. He bloody never stops. Anyway, folks, don't chase your losses and please bet sensibly. Thank you, gentlemen.
Well done,
Great
son.
stuff. Great stuff. Great stuff from Joe, as always, and as he says, please bet sensibly. Okay, we are going to do our tune look-alike section now before we look ahead to this afternoon's game.
Brilliant.
Keith's off already. Tune look-alike, and these have really been flowing in. I did manage to cram in a few of the the waifs and strays which have come in towards the back end of the show. So thank you for sending these. Paparazzi sent this one. Jack Dorsey, touchline ban, the Taliban guy with 2 ice creams, which I think is about as near to the bone as we'll get when we do these. This one was from Moxie Mag. Have you ever seen Steve Hasty and Kevin Keegan in the same room? It's a good one. This one was good. Robbie Banks, Graham Potter, and Chuck Norris.
I can see where he's coming from there. Yeah,
pretty good. I got this one. This was, yeah, Checkers. That's pretty good. And the same person sent this one.
Oh my God.
Mitchy Davro.
Bobby Davro and Mitch. I thought that was pretty good. That was pretty good as well. Okay, where we're going next? We've got a couple up the top here. Right, okay, this one, hold on, bear with us, the technical side of things. This was a good one, sent early doors. This was from Wayne Bennett. A cool double denim lookalike for Friday. First one was Shaky. Second one, Alan Shearer.
Shearer.
Oh, why?
Then we'll go Shaky. Alan Shearer.
Are they Geordie jeans?
Probably weren't Geordie jeans. There's something similar to that though. But obviously one of his first modelling deals. I also got this from Albert Mooney. I've gone with the one on the right, which was the Nigel Farage and Parker. From Thunderbirds, but I'm not sure where the pictures ended up there, so we'll have to skip on quickly from that. And we did get this one from Albert Steptoe and Jamie Vardy, which I thought was pretty good. This one was from Tom Dixon, I think. James Hunt and Malcolm MacDonald.
Not bad.
Yeah, good.
Not bad. Who sent us this one? That looks like Keith being assaulted with a Nerf gun. Lee Girdlestone sent us this one. King Theoden from the Two Towers and Steve Hasty's passport photo, I think.
It's definitely not.
Looks like Steve Hasty's passport photo. Jesus.
Isn't it? Gotta be.
Then we got this one from Papa again. That was quite good. The politician and Steve Bruce.
Very good.
Yeah,
very good. It's all about the way that they look. Coming into the winners now, the winners segment. Here we go. Brian Potter from Phoenix Knights.
Because Brian Potter's supposed to look like an idiot, isn't he?
Rose for the lady, man.
Here's another good lookalike. Joe Walker, the Toon Tipster and Super Mac.
Paul MacDonald. What a bad comparison. Paul Malcolm.
We'll have to have chuck that one in. Father and son.
The father's on
then Robbie Banks sent this one in. Steve Hasty doing a Jack Grealish with Alice Band and sunglasses on his head.
The Cookie Monster.
This one was from Keith Patterson. That was from Tom Dixon. Via Keith Patterson, because I've missed it. Fred West and Steve Hasty.
Right time will come. Right
when I've got that one. And I've looked at that, I thought, he's having
this one was from Albert Mooney. He says, nice to meet you at the food bank on match day. I took this as I approached from the rear. I just knew it was you. And
I'm really sorry.
The winner this week is Paul Gray. Tune lookalike young Mr. Hasty in his early acting days. Hi!
Oh, man alive.
Have you got any big round glasses there, Hasty? You got some big round ones?
Can I just say something?
In your collection.
I was in the Irish Centre on Saturday, and I met a young lady called Lauren. She was a lovely kid, and she came over and she asked me to get her on Team Lauren. And so I was put in to represent the night on behalf of young Lauren and her mum. And her mum's called Mrs. Hasty, and she's called Lauren Hasty. And what they've decided is they love the dad and her husband that much They don't like all this Mickey take that he's getting. So they've asked if we can put a sponsorship up here where we all get a collection for the food bank, where he cuts it all off on the screen. And I'd like to start it off because I said to Lauren, I'll do that for you, pet. She said, will you do it, Keith? She said, and so I'm saying to people now, all you people out there, let's do some kind of collection that they ask for. Now, I'm not getting the money. This doesn't come into my bank. But what I'd like to do again. I would like to put forward £100 if Mr. Hasty will get his hair cut off on this show for his daughter and his wife, apparently, who both want to see him, with a number 2. All right?
That's
£100.
Absolute myth.
That's what she said. And Bud Baker and Peter Clinell were all there witnessing it, mind. And Dean, Magic Beans Dean, he was there. And they all said that you've got to get your hair cut.
I'll call you on that one because my friend Paula, who we met after
Paula from Oldham,
thought the hair was lovely. So don't you start throwing around like that.
I'm going to put the music on. Saved by the music, Steve. Saved by the music.
No.
Dear me, I wouldn't force it.
We did meet Paula from Oldham. What a lovely person. She watches the show religiously every week. Her husband's a Leeds fan. She was a smashing lass. She met Keith outside in the street as he was leaving. And she got a photograph taken with him. I think he signed a few autographs, you know what he's like. And then he just got into conversation that we were still in the Irish Centre. So she came in, she told us everything I'd been saying all about her, which was very good of her. And she sat and we had a drink with her. And what a lovely person, absolutely general person. I hope she enjoyed her holiday down at Woodley Bay for the rest of the week. And I think she probably realised that there's some really decent people in that Irish Centre, and then there's Keith Patterson standing outside on his.
Do you know what he said to me? Steve Hasty got in touch with me and he says, you bugger. Because I just said, I says, before you go back to Oldham, go down the back of that Irish Centre. He sat in the back, old silver locks with me granny's haircut. He's at the back wall. And she walked in and she had a photograph and he's signing his autograph and that. And he missed his bus, he missed his tea, and he was still there 10:10. And I sent him in 7:15. So who's guilty? Guilty, Mr. Hasty.
Mark Bayer says nobody wants to see Steve Hasty have a number 2 on the show.
That is true. Well said,
very,
Mark.
very, very true. Okay, big shout out to everybody as always for watching. Some great stuff in the chat. Lots of people willing to donate money. I think you and Keith need to have a chat off air about this. Darren Agnew says lookalikes are poor now. Darren, if you've got some better ones, you know where to contact us. Send yours in. We rely on you to provide them. So get them over to us, and we'll get you on the show next week if you've got some better ones. The money's been pledged. Like, in fact, you've already outdone the pledge. You've already outdone the pledge with the amount of money that people are donating. All right, here we go. Newcastle United play their second game of the season. We are away at Villa Park against Aston Villa, and it is a 3 o'clock kick-off. And Martin Dubravka, Carl Darlow, of course, both remain unavailable, as we discussed earlier on the show, which means Freddie Woodman will play his second Premier League game. Mark Gillespie, of course, will be on the bench. At the press conference today, the main news was the confirmation of John Joe Shelvey would be out. He has sustained another calf injury. It's his other calf, his other leg, which is disrupted. And, of course, that disrupted his pre-season. Paul Dummett, or Dumbledino, as it was on the back of that shirt earlier on, is back in training. Although he's not going to be considered for the Villa game, he might play some part in the Burnley Cup game in midweek. Last week, as I mentioned on the Super Mac and Gibbo show last night, Villa were beaten 3-2 against Watford in their opening game. Last season's top scorer for Villa was Ollie Watkins, of course. He is going to be missing again with a knee injury, and Bertrand Traore is also unavailable for Villa. We've had the tips of Toon Tipster earlier on. I guess the only thing I could really add to what he said was that it's not a happy hunting ground for us, Aston Villa, in recent occasions, and I think we've failed to score there now, as one of our viewers last night added it all up. I think it's 352 minutes since we scored a goal at Villa Park over 4 games.
Cheery.
Over 4 games, yeah, and that is a downer, really. The Joe Willock thing, of course, is the one thing we will all be focused on. Will he play some part? Will he start the game? And will he score an 8th successive goal in 8 successive games, which of course will surpass Alan Shearer's record? The goal for Willock, of course, would emulate the feat as well of Len White, who scored in 8 successive top-flight appearances for Newcastle in the 57-58 season. So, yeah, good luck to Joe Willock. I've got to be perfectly honest, I'm not very confident at all for this match against Villa. I think Villa will be well up for it. They'll want to impress the home crowd. I think the best we can get out of this game is a draw. That's what I'm going to go for, and I think Willock will get his goal. So I'm optimistic in that department. But it's out of the frying pan and into the fire in the Premier League. There's no such thing as an easy game. Mitch, how do you see this going?
Who knows what Bruce is going to chuck out of his randomizer tomorrow? Because, I mean, let's look at it. He's just criticised both the wing-backs openly about defensive issues. We've got Willock in, Shelby out. So if you stick with the same midfield combo, you've then got to rearrange what people are doing. But then, was Hayden really best utilised in the position he was utilised against West Ham? Probably not. Almiron looked more calm and yet seemed to be less effective as a result of it. Are we going to see changes? I try not to look at the league tables and things like that until about the 4th or the 5th game, because you do get like really weird results sometimes in the first 3-4 weeks of the season. But contrasting how we played in the first half versus the second half, but we've turned into Forrest Gump's box of chocolates. What's going to come out of it? What we're going to get next? And I hope it's the bloody coffee cream and not the bloody one with a coconut in, and if we can't see where we're going with it, we can't see a cohesive strategy from the management. He was talking about not reverting, going with a back 5 and not going to a back 4, because statistically every time we've gone to a back 4 we've been even worse, and so we know we've got the potential to score goals. Any team with Callum Wilson in has that. And it's how we stop it happening. We're helped by the fact that Watkins isn't there, Troll is not there, so there's 2 goal threats from them that are missing. And I still think the best we can hope for is a draw. And personally, I would like to see more of what we had in the first half and less of what we had in the second half against West Ham. But does Steve Bruce know how to do that? I'm not convinced. I can't see we're getting anything out of the game, unfortunately. And it's sad that it's become, of late, a ground that hasn't been a happy hunting ground, because I think up until about 2 years ago, I think it was actually, statistically, one of the best grounds for Newcastle United to go to in terms of picking up 3 points. I think it's only changed in the last couple of years because we've been so abject on our travels. And again, has enough changed to change that? The answer is no. We know the answer is no. So I can't see we're doing any. I can see we're nicking a draw. If we nick a 1-1, I'll actually be delighted. And I actually hate myself for saying that. Okay. I want to be going in. I want to be going in with positivity and say, right, we're gonna have a go, get 3 points. We're gonna, if we're lucky, we'll nick a 1-1.
Okay, Keith.
So yours, Steve, you said a draw, but you didn't say whether it was 1-1, 2-2. What do you think, Steve?
I'm going for 1-1, and I'm going for Willock to get his goal.
There's 2 1-1s. I can't be hypocritical because I've asked for a game where Shelby doesn't start, and I know it's through injury, but to me it feels like a selection job. So with him not playing, because I was thinking 2-2. That's what I was like thinking. I just think we have no right to get a result in this game, but I do. Somebody tells us And I have had a good week and got like made success in some areas. And I just think to myself, all that things gone. I just think it's going to finish on a good way. This, I just think it's going to end good. And with no John Joe Shelby, I think the midfield will be tighter. I don't think we'll get overrun. I think we'll have the pace. But I think because we'll have the pace in the middle, I think that it will be tight. I think there'll be very few chances in the game. I think there'll be a low-scoring game. I pray. I hope it's not an avalanche. So I'm going to go for a crazy result, which I never ever predict. And I'm predicting 0-1, 1-0 Newcastle, and just I don't care if it comes off somebody's backside, preferably young Willox, but I'm 1-0 to Newcastle, and I don't know. I think it's that kind of game, and I'm excited, and it'll be a good end of the week.
All right, tune tipster Joe, what do you fancy?
I'm going to sound like the merchant of doom here. First half against West Ham, I thought we gave as good as we got. I don't think we were as good as people were making out. Keith, turn your speakers off, because I actually thought we looked a hell of a lot worse when Shelby went off. We just seem to be missing something. He's obviously going to get replaced by Willock. I've just looked at the price there, Steve. 1-1 Joe Willock is 40-1.
Wow, so really?
Wow.
Yeah. I think it'll be close. Am I confident with the strike force? Yes. Am I absolutely petrified about our defensive back line? Yes. 1-1. I'm not. I'd love it to be Willock. I'd love that 40-1 to come in, but I'll go 1-1, and I hope it's Wilson for the food bank.
All right, Steve Hasty.
I watched the second half last week, and I just saw gaps opening up all over the back five, which was basically a back three by then, because the wing backs were all over the place, and the gaps between the three centre backs were ridiculous at times. I mean, you're not talking 10 yards, you're talking 30 and 40 yards at times. I'd like to see a revert to a back four. I love that team that was put up earlier with two proper fullbacks, two proper central defenders. I think that when you've got that, you can then, because you haven't got Shelby who's spraying the ball, you can make it a little bit tighter and a little bit more solid with a central midfield four. And then two up front. I really did like that team. I thought it was a really good team. I would question Fraser and whether I could squeeze Almiron in on that, or whether you would have Fraser in because you were wanting to generate a little bit of something that I haven't seen from Fraser yet. So I'd question that. In terms of score, I think we can get something from this game. There's no reason why we can't get something this game. I don't think Villa are as good a team as people are making out. I think they're going to suffer for the loss of Grealish, and I think they'll suffer from the loss of having their main striker, even though they've got Danny Ings in. I understand where you're coming from on that, Joe. But I think we can get something. I think we can get 2-1. I think we can win 2-1.
All right, good stuff. And Julie Baker, I haven't forgotten. Thought I'd finish off on a positive before I have a week off. Big shout out to Noah. Thanks, mate. Fuck off, Baldy. old ones are the best. Yeah, thanks very much, mate. Love it. Absolutely love it. Okay, what have I got coming up? Well, tomorrow we've got an absolutely brilliant show, and Holly and George are together doing their dream team tomorrow. And
amazing.
What a show that is. 6 o'clock tomorrow night. Listen to our oldest member of NUFC Matters panels, George, and anyone who watches the retro show and listens to George's recollections will know that he was there in those Halicon days of Jackie Milburn and the Robledo brothers and Joe Harvey, and his recollections about some of the games are fantastic. And he's the only person, I think, amongst the panels as well who had the privilege of signing a contract to actually play for Newcastle, will pull on the black and white shirt and stand alongside some of the greatest players. So well worth listening to his team. And Holly, who was our youngest contributor at 16, who's just done so well in her GCSEs, she gives her team as well. And I just thought it would be nice to have a contrast between the two and have them on the same show, and it didn't let us down. So that's 6 o'clock tomorrow night. We also have... yeah, go on.
Sorry, mate. Anybody who listens to me dad talk might understand why I am the way I am, and the whole family history that pours through, the black and white that runs through me dad, me granda, his father, me uncles and me great uncles. You know, all of this gets drip fed through. And I cannot wait to watch that. I think it'll be fantastic watch.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic, and it is well worth a watch. It's just over an hour long, so well worth a watch. That 6 o'clock tomorrow, and on Sunday 6 o'clock. I had the privilege a couple of weeks ago of interviewing Jamie Hull. Life on a Thread is his book, and I think once you watch the interview, listen to the interview, you'll probably want to go out and buy it. An ex-military man who almost lost his life in a plane crash, but as you can see, he survived. And it's quite an inspirational story. So it was a pleasure to speak to him. I'll be putting this one out a little bit later as well. Kevin Lane, who I interviewed a few weeks ago, or a few months ago actually, on his release from prison, has sadly been recalled. And I'm about to go offline now and have a quick conversation with his girlfriend and with Kevin, who is back in Her Majesty's pleasure at the minute, fighting to get back out. It's an unjust recall, so we're going to we'll find out a little bit more about that. Something will be going up about that. And I've noticed the comments. People have enjoyed the Man in the Shed podcast. Well, the Man in the Shed will be back. He will be doing one more broadcast prior to my trip away. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. It is another belter, but I'm not sure how much longer I can carry them on. But I have enjoyed doing them, I have to say. As I said, plenty coming up next week. You've got a show every night. Sometimes you've got a couple of shows in the day. Please tune in. So there will be no Fab 4 next week, but there will be one of our famous Newcastle United shows, which will go out next Friday. And I think it's the penultimate one that goes out, or the final one that goes out that week. But enjoy your week off, chaps. Enjoy the games, which I am going to miss, sadly. And look forward to catching up with you very soon, lads. Take care.
Take care.
See you later, boys.
Bye, lads.
Take care, lads.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care. Take care.
Bye.